our agent calls us, and he says, you guys want to get into movies, right? Yes. He says, well, you know who Paul Hogan is? Of course. You ever seen Crocodile Dundee? Of course.
Wait, if you know who Paul Hogan is, you've seen Crocodile Dundee.
Of course.
There is
That's true. How else do you know who he is?
Well, I'm a fan of his other work.
So he says, he's like, well, I'm one of the agents in charge. Paul Hogan is a client at the agency, wants to do a third installment of the franchise. I'm one of the agents in charge of putting writers in a room to pitch him ideas for the movie. If you want, I'll throw you in a room with him and you can, get some practice. And my writing partner and I screw it. Let's meet Paul Hogan. That'll be a funny story.
Yeah, of course.
This is sort of a backstory here. Paul Hogan owns like 60% of the movie.
Wow.
Paul Hogan was a TV star. Like he had a variety show in Australia. So he's a TV star, and with a couple of writers from the variety show, he wrote the first one and cobbled together like $5 million from investors to make the first movie. Made on a shoestring budget, and he owned it. So he owned like 60% of it, and then he went around piecemeal to all the different countries and just sold the distribution rights.
Whoa.
So, I mean, he made gazillions.
He's a rich dude. Yeah.
Wow.
And now, but it is still 14 years later, though. You're going into pitch. It's a little. Were you a little bit struck by that? Like, why now? I mean, because it's a long gap.
I honestly think he wanted to be a star again, and frankly, I think he wanted his wife to do something.
Oh, right, because he's married to...
never worked again.
Oh, that's his wife?
Yes.
No.
Yes, that's his wife.
No.
She's a lot younger.
No.
And he had...
No.
Are you okay?
Because, Matthew, the one thing I was going to say is they didn't seem to have 1 ounce of chemistry. Those were the stiffest scenes.
By the way,
I am genuinely shocked.
Not only is this his wife, but he had a very, very public divorce in Australia, like in the tabloids and everything.
With this woman?
Because he cheated on his wife with Linda Kozlowski or whatever her name is. And
no, his other wife with this woman, you mean?
The Linda, the one in the movie, yes. He cheated on
his mistress.
So this is like he went through fire to have this love.
So there were a couple of times where he had a house in Santa Barbara, and when we would go up and pitch him various things for the movies or go over things with him, we never met her. She was always around, but it was just weird. We would go to this guy's house there were like 2 or 3 days where we spent like the entire day with him, pitching him ideas, and he'd say yes to some stuff and no to some stuff.
I want you to stay out of the picture, sweetheart. Make yourself busy in the kitchen.
Now you know why we asked Eddie Pepitone to be on this podcast. A flawless,
well, I was just in Melbourne, so I have the accent.
Paul Hogan impression.
So, it honestly felt like they were the only 2 rules that we had.
Okay.
The only 2, we were told to go pitch, and we were like, it had to take place present day.
Got it.
Which means, we couldn't go back in time and do it 2 years after that. It had to take place present day, and she had to be in it. Everything else was up for grabs.
Okay.
So we go in, and we rewatch the first 2 movies. And you know what we realize is they're very simple movies, obviously. It's just him reacting to stuff. Like, that's the whole movie, right?
Yeah.
And he's funniest when he's reacting to stuff. So we're like, and we don't want this job. We don't think we're getting it. So we basically, the premise we come up with is this, we come up with it in maybe half a day. We're just like, we go in and we say, like, look, you did New York in the first 2 movies. You've never done L.A. Let's say you're living in Australia, you're still with Linda, but let's say you've never been married, and but you've got a little kid. So he's a little crock.
Right.
Because there was the other thing is, I don't know if you guys remember when this movie came out, but basically like Something About Mary was like the big movie, at least at the time we were pitching it. Something About Mary was like the big movie in Hollywood, and all the things that were getting sold and made were like these raunchy R-rated comedies.
Right.
Really sort of over-the-top Fairly Brother type movies, and we were like, there's no way this movie can compete with that. So the only shot it has is to try to go the other way and just be like super family and friendly and sweet, that the people that enjoyed the first one could take their kids to.
Was there
so it was like made for me.
Yes, exactly. We pitch them that simple story of like, hey, you go to L.A. There's some bad guys. You get a job at the studio because you can talk to the animals. Your wife gets a job at Newsday in L.A. You basically you're going to show because your kid's never been to America, so you're going to show him around. It's the blind leading the blind because you're telling him you know America, but obviously you don't. That's the movie, and then you end with a wedding because everybody loves a wedding.
The LA montage was electric, by the way. It made me want to go out on the streets. I just want to tell you
Of course.
You couldn't believe you had it all available to you.
So now all three of you are listed as writers. Did he get in the mix and write, or was he just supervising you two?
No, he's not listed as a writer. That's part of the whole dispute. So anyway, so just to put a bow on this. So basically, so we give him that pitch, and it's like, that's simple. It's just super simple. Like, you go to L.A., blah, blah, blah. There's bad guys there. You walk around L.A. It's Crocodile Dundee. We'll make it funny. You know, how tough is it? And he's like, you guys are the only ones who get me.
Oh, my God.
Awesome.
It's like the producers.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, we have no thoughts that we're ever getting this job. We are literally going in because we think it'll be a funny story to tell. Hey, we met we met Paul Hogan, and it was practice to pitch to a movie star or something like that. And apparently, everyone else, every other writer he met with, pitched him like, Crocodile Dundee saves the universe from a nuclear explosion, Croc 3 in space, like all these like crazy, terrible ideas.
I do want to see Croc 3 in space, by the way.
By the way, that would be great.
Croc 4.
I will pay you $500 to write that.
That would be the sequel to Sharknado.
That would be amazing.
All right, so then now you're trapped. You're in.
Yeah, well, I mean, they basically, so he wants to, it becomes one of these things where he wants to co-write it with us, and so because Paul's writing quote is so insanely high, people don't realize
Academy Award
got an Academy Award nomination for writing for the first movie.
Paul Hogan got an Academy Award.
Academy for writing the
Crocodile Dundee won?
Yep.
It did not win, but he was nominated. Him and the two other guys that wrote the first movie, and I don't know who contributed what to that, but the three... Paul Hogan is an Academy Award nominee for the screenplay of
You are blowing my mind.
And a Golden Globe winner for Best Actor.
That's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And a Razzie nominee for Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, along with me. Thank you very much.
Nice.
But because Paul's writing quote was so high, what Paramount was going to pay us to do this movie was insane amount of money for first-time movie writers.
Yeah.
So we were like...
You must have been happy about that.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Like, if you're going to sell out big. Yeah. All the kids out there. Yeah, so, I mean, listen, so we did it, and Alyssa bought me a house. God bless Croc.
Sure. So now you're signed up, you got a lot of money, you are... You're off to do this movie. So now, what is this process like as you embark on the action? Yeah.
Right. So the plan was for us to quote write it together. But the last thing my writing partner and I want to do is sit in front of a computer screen with Paul Hogan for 3 months, right? And we know he doesn't want to do that either.
Mm-hmm.
So we say to him, look, let us write the first draft. We'll run everything by you and everything like that. We'll write the first draft, and then we'll hand it to you, and you can take your pass at it, and we'll go from there. So we go off and we write our script, and we pitch him a bunch of stuff, and some stuff he likes, and some stuff he doesn't, and he gave us notes and whatever. And
give me an example. Do you remember like something that he liked, something he didn't like? Do you remember anything that you're like, oh, I wish we would have gotten that in? Like that? Do you remember anything like that?
Yes. I mean, here's one thing that we pitched that he didn't like that I thought would be funny, that I thought was a very kind of Crocodile Dundee type thing.
Right.
I mean, remember, it's all sort of gentle humor, right?
Sure.
It's all sort of observational, gentle humor that he's reacting. He's a guy from the Outback. But, like, you know how, like, when you're in L.A., everyone valets.
Right.
You go, no matter where you valet, you can't just find any parking. And when you get a valet ticket, it says, read this. And it's all the disclaimer stuff on the ticket.
That's funny, yeah.
So we thought it would be funny if Paul Hogan actually reads it. But like, there's a long line of cars and everything like that, and he gets there. Of course, everyone just takes the ticket and walks off, and they go. But it literally says read this. It limits your liability, and so he won't give the keys until he's read the whole thing, and he's considering it. And people are honking, and everyone's going nuts, and he's just, hold on, I'm thinking about this, and so it was just, it was the whole thing that he just doesn't understand.
A funny piece.
No, I think he was right to deny that.
there is still a valet joke in this. There is
the valet joke where he attacks the valet, yeah.
Right, and that's what it turned into.
Was there did he have rules for the Croc character? Because he goes to punch that valet real quick, but then you see that he seems like he's a pacifist most of the time.
There were no rules. I think it was just whatever worked for Paul.
All right.
He would say sometimes like, I wouldn't do that.
Got it.
But he never seemed to really say like, Crocodile Dundee does A, but he doesn't do B. He never sat down.
Right.
It was all sort of in his mind.
He didn't have the Crocodile Dundee Bible that he passed off.
No, we didn't get that. We didn't get the secret handshake.
He wasn't that detailed.
So you write the first draft, and then what happens here?
So we write the first draft based on his notes, everything like that, and so basically he then rewrites pretty much the entire script. He throws a couple of new things in there, but generally, and this is the example I give. So let's say we're doing a scene we wrote a scene sort of like interior podcast studio.
Right.
Matthew's talking to Paul Scheer. Matthew Berry is talking to Paul Scheer about his movie. Okay?
Yes.
Paul, Matthew, welcome to the show. And he would rewrite that
this
to say,
movie is amazing.
Interior TV studio. Nick Kroll is interviewing Eric Abrams.
Oh, wow. So he was just going through and just changing names so he can get so he was trying to steal writer's credit from you, essentially.
Correct. I mean, so there's not one word that's the same. So
but the intention
studio,
is all the same.
2 different guys, and they're talking about his book. And so it's like a college kid, changing his term paper,
right.
From Wikipedia or something.
Oh man, that's really that's like really.
So he could justify his writing it, huh?
Right, exactly, and just everything was just sort of like a worse version of what we had. You know what I mean? It's just like every punchline was just like not nearly as sharp. It wasn't as funny. It was just more obvious.
There you go. I think it's all fixed.
I think there was something like I think we at least try. I mean, I don't know. We're starting with a 16-year-old sequel, right? And it's Croc 3. But we at least tried to make it at least semi-smart sort of things.
Sure.
I think the gay bar scene. I think the gay bar scene that we had was he goes into the gay bar, has a drink, and has a great time.
Got it.
I think that would have been funny.
But has no idea
that would have been
that they're gay.
Yeah. Because he runs out right away. Or even him with a bunch of women cross-dressing, he didn't get that they were men.
Well, his friend didn't get that the host was a cross-dresser.
Yeah, he actually did get that.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. He did get that. He was
looked
on
to the
her.
camera going, well, that's his problem.
Right, exactly. We didn't want to make fun of. We thought it would be funnier if he's just I met the greatest group of guys.
I think
he just
that
had
would have
no
been funny,
concept of what was going on in the scene. We thought that was
yes.
That was
I think you're
character.
right. I think Croc works best when he's sort of joyfully innocent.
Yeah, where he's truly a fish out of water.
Yes.
Right, and has sort of this in the first movie he has a super positive outlook, on everything.
By the way, Matthew, in our very cynical world, I think we need Croc 4.
Can I tell you something hilarious?
Yeah.
Our agent, we actually had a great agent on this particular deal. Our agent, we actually have a contract when we agreed to do it. If there is a Croc 4, he has to offer it to us first.
Amazing.
Oh, my God.
We still have the rights of first refusal on Croc 4.
Well, Matthew, you might be getting that because I'm looking at this article on IMDb that says that his money manager stole $34 million from him.
What?
No.
Yes.
I saw that. He's having some tax problems, too. What's amazing is that $34 million probably doesn't mean that much to him.
Wow.
He's literally that wealthy.
Wow. That is
Which is why the guy
mind-boggling.
could steal it.
Well, I mean, it says here that he allegedly helped him hide money in a Swiss account in order to avoid taxes.
Oh, jeez.
And he made off with $34 million of it.
There's the plot.
There is the plot. He's got
there you go.
Croc in Switzerland.
Croc in Switzerland.
There is a number of scenes in this movie where a deadly animal is present. Paul Hogan is safe. Somebody else is in harm's way, and he does not warn them. Because there's also the scene. There's also the scene where the big giant Jaws croc eats Paul Hogan's boat. He gets up in a tree, and then his buddy comes along in a Jacko comes along in a tiny little canoe, and is like, "What are you doing up in the tree?" And Paul Hogan's like, "Oh, don't worry about it." And then it doesn't warn him. Isn't there's a gigantic croc, and the croc eats Jocko's boat. Jocko easily could have gotten eaten in that scene.
You would think in the Australian outback, because that's where Jacko lives, that he's aware of this.
Yeah. Well, now you alluded to the fact that he's kind of a jerk. So when did the jerk side pop out? Besides,
so here's when the jerk side comes out. So okay, so we turn in the movie. He rewrites it the way he does, where he just basically makes everything like much more obvious and much more dull, and whatever.
It's all fixed
look,
now.
It's never going to be a great movie, but we were trying to make it at least slightly clever.
Right. And were you writing? And just to derail you for one second, were you writing to cameos too? Because I know like Mike Tyson's in this movie and
George Hamilton.
Were you guys? Was that a mandate in here too? Or that just was like a?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, but
that looked like a mandate.
But it was a mandate to write cameos. But it was always like generic because they were like, we'll see what we can get.
Mike Tyson was a questionable one at that point because that would be right after he got out of jail for allegedly raping that girl, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was a very surprising one.
Yeah, he was a very gentle.
We actually wanted Hef. We wrote in Hef.
That makes sense.
And at one point he gets basically a Hef lookalike or something like that.
Right.
But yes, so that was one of the ideas. I think that was one of the pitches is that he would run into celebrities and not know who any of them were. That was an LA thing. That he would run into celebrities.
Just like doing normal celebrity stuff, like Mike Tyson, everybody always knows, is always meditating in a park in Beverly Hills.
Right, by himself.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody knows that.
And the Mel Gibson stuff, which I did like that to me was like a perfect example of like a crock one, like,
Tom Cruise, what does he look like?
Yeah, I like those jokes.
Yeah. He then takes our name off the script. And
wow.
We need to have, so he turns it in and he wants sole writing credit. And it would have been fine with us. It's not like we were proud of it.
Right.
The problem is that because of the contract we'd signed, and anyone listening that's a member of the Writers Guild, like to get residuals and to get certain contractual bonuses, we needed to have writing credit.
Yeah.
Like we were going to get a bonus if it got made and we had writing credit, or at least partial writing credit. So we needed to have writing credit because the whole reason we wrote the damn thing was for money. It was a pure money thing, obviously. Mm-hmm. So once Paul Hogan basically said, I want sole writing credit, the line was drawn in the sand, and it was either us or him for writing credit.
Oh, man. So you had to go against him and fight him for...
You had to arbitrate against him.
Did you have to go, sit there in arbitration with him, or you went separately?
Oh, yeah.
So
that's not a pen. This is a pen.
Right. That's not a first draft. Yeah. This is a first draft. Right. So, right. And we go and... We turn in our draft to the Writers Guild, and we have to make our presentation to a 3-person board. He does the same thing. He turns in his draft of the second version of the script.
Yeah.
And then they look at the final shooting script. And because he's a producer on the movie, he needed to have created 50% of the movie. Like that's the sort of the Writers Guild, at least at the time. That was the rule. And basically, he loses. He loses 3-0. They vote for us.
Wow.
Amazing.
So he then appeals the decision, which is allowed. The appeal goes through. He loses 3-0 again.
He could have just shut his mouth and shared screenwriting credit and made more money.
Yeah.
We never would have fought it. We turned it in, actually. The first draft of the script that we turned in had all 3 of our names written by the 3 of us.
So he just was trying to get more money. That's crazy. Yeah. So now,
Paul, I don't even think it was money. I think it's literally ego. I think the whole reason you asked, why he wanted to be a star again. He wanted to, be in a universe where, hey, we're making another Croc movie. He's the big star. He's got the big trailer. It's all about him.
It's kind of like the Sylvester Stallone. His name is on like every movie as a writer. And I'm looking at Paul Hogan's IMDb page, and he wrote Lightning Jack, Almost an Angel. He's listed as a writer on every one of his movies.
Right. So that's sort of his thing or whatever. So now he's lost 9-0. He's lost the appeal. He's lost the appeal of the appeal. So we're like, okay. So then he starts threatening to sue the Writers Guild. And he starts doing all the press.
Whoa.
For the movie. Whoa. And he's trashing us in public. Like if you search for if you Google Paul Hogan sues Writers Guild or Paul Hogan Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles, WGA, or anything like that, you'll see he talks about wanting to sue the Writers Guild for writing credit, and that he really wrote it, and that these 2 guys, Matthew Berry and Eric Abrams, don't deserve credit and everything like that. So now we're in this really public battle about this movie that we're not real proud of. We wanted screen credit just for the movie. We can't sit there and say we didn't write. You know what I mean? It's this horrible, awkward thing where we have to very publicly say, no, we're the writers of this horrible, shitty movie. You know what I mean?
And we're fighting to be the writers.
Right, exactly. We are fighting to get credit for this terrible movie.
Right.
That's the hilarious thing, too, is when the poster first came out, when it said written by, it said pending. They wouldn't put names on there initially.
That's awesome.
Oh, my God.
A lot of people are like, who's pending?
And then, did you guys ever have a face-off at all? Like, did you?
We sort of. I mean, we went to the premiere, and they were like contractually obligated to give us like 4 tickets, 2 each for the premiere, and like they're the last 2 seats. Like the rest of the cast and the director and everything, they're all like front and center. We were literally in the last row in the back corner. Like, you go to the premiere, like, they wouldn't let us walk the red carpet, and then it's just, it's just a horrible, horrible experience, because we're just treated like pariahs, and, the guy that was sort of, whoever was the lowest person at Paramount got stuck with handling us, and he's just like, yeah, sorry, Paul Hogan said, you guys can't be anywhere near him, and, really?
Wow.
Because we want, I don't know, so it was just a horrible experience from start to finish. And he was such a terrible human being to us. And
and he was such a liar because you wrote the damn thing. So he was living this lie.
And he knew that he was living a lie.
Christ.
So do you come face to face with him?
At one point we ran into him after the movie. We were exiting at the same time he was or something like that.
Uh-oh.
And we're like, and I think I said something, I literally said, hey, Paul, gosh, the movie turned out swell. Like, I said something really like that, and he just looked at me, and he didn't say anything. He walked on.
Wow. What a dick.
Yeah. One thing I'm proud of, it's a very small moment. It's a very small moment at the beginning of the movie. He gets in the limo, and the driver hands him a headshot. Thinks somehow that they're important and hands him a headshot, and Paul Hogan takes out his wallet and hands him a picture of him and his kid, thinking this is what you do in L.A.
I like that, too.
I did like that joke, too, yeah.
I like that, too.
So, I thought that was a small moment, and I thought that was very true to the character, and I thought that was kind of funny. So that's one thing that, that sort of survived as we wrote it. In terms of what we're embarrassed by, pretty much the rest of the movie.
I was hoping you'd say that.
And the whole thing is building towards a wedding. He's actually going to make an honest woman of Sue. And so he says, what about something where, he says, I think the teacher's probably got the hots for me, or something like that, likes my, charm. He tells us basically to write a woman hitting on him.
Sure.
We'd actually said, well, like, someone should hit on you, but let's do it at the gay bar, and you're not aware that he's hitting on you at all.
Really
and you're
funny,
just getting
He's
along
like,
great.
no way.
Yeah.
Again, this is however long was the movie out? Like 15 years ago?
Sure.
I mean, this is what sounds old, like kind of old stale jokes now, was at least slightly fresh back then.
Yeah. 11 years ago, it was good. It was
right. So anyway, so he didn't want to do that, but he wanted the teacher to hit on him. So we're like, fine, the teacher. So we write that scene, and then we take long Silkwood showers after it. But whatever, we write the scene. And then the movie comes out and we see it, and not only has the teacher hitting on him, but do you remember the rollerblader?
Yeah,
that's what we were just talking about.
It's right, and we're just like, good God, how many women are hitting on this 50-year-old dude?
She is not only hitting on him, but she stops short, rollerblading on Venice Beach Boulevard there to throw herself at him, and then have a mini she has a mini monologue to herself where she's like, I mean, what am I doing? Just talking to a cowboy on the side of the street.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's gay.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Not my experience out here. It's cold, distant eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, this is too good. I finally bump into a cute cowboy. He's a little more Robert Redford's vintage than Brad Pitt's, but that's okay, because he's got a mansion in Beverly Hills, and plus he's got custody of his kid. That means he'd be a good dad to my Cindy, and this is... Oh, there's a catch, right? Because nothing this good ever happens to me. I mean, you're not available. You're gay, right?
Most of the time. Pretty happy, yeah.
Of course! Cute cowboy, Venice Beach, had to be gay. What was I thinking?
Boy, she was a chatterbox.
Yeah, mate. An American woman.
She's got a nice ass.
Yeah.
If you want to ask me what's the most embarrassing scene, for me, it's that.
Yeah, that is a big one, yeah.
Well, because it's so out of place in the movie, It makes no sense. No one talks like that. It's not real at all. It's not based in any sort of thing. It's entirely about his ego.
That
scene is entirely about his ego, which is sort of emblematic of the whole movie.
Well, Matthew, this is awesome to hear from your first-hand account about this movie. Thank you so much for joining us.
You were great. Thank you.
Yeah, you could check out his book, Fantasy Life. You can get it at fantasylifethebook.com. Matthew Berry, thanks so much
Thank you
for joining us.
Paul, fun as always. Thanks, guys.